Hello students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastava from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. I am going to take up the topic of international institutions. Now we have already studied about what is globalization, how we go in for export or import of product and services in the international borders. That means we try to sell our products and buy the products from the foreign countries across the national borders. Now, when we do so, a number of theories come into play that are very important for the purchasers as well as the sellers. A number of other things are also important, such as financial institutions, how you are going in for credits or how you are going into for exchange of certain currency notes of your own country with those that of the other country in which you are going to trade. So, all of this, after this we need to see that is there any kind of organization or a network of organization which governs or which makes the rules and regulations regarding the products and services of these particular export and import. So, now we are going to study about the international organizations which come into play when we talk about export and import of product and services. So, the very first one is the World Trade Organization, that is WTO. During the Great Depression of 1930s, the international trade was badly affected and various countries imposed import restriction for safeguarding their economies. So, during that period number of exports and imports was being decreased due to depression. This resulted in sharp decline in the world trade in 1945. That means almost the trade was negligible during 1945. USA put forward many proposals for extending international trade and employment. On October 30th, 1947, 23 countries at Geneva signed an agreement related to tariff imposed on the trade. So, for that ongoing process of growth, we need to export and import. With the decline in 1945, it was an important issue that we look into the matter and go in for increase of exports and imports, because it directly impacts the economy of any of the country and ultimately the economy of the country related to the employment of that particular country. So, for that purpose US intervened at Geneva and they and all the countries, 23 countries, they signed into an agreement which were related to the taxes that were imposed on the trade. This agreement was known as General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, that is GATT. It came into force on January 1, 1948. GATT's headquarters was in Geneva. On December 12, 1995, GATT was abolished and replaced by World Trade Organization, that was WTO, which came into existence on January 1, 1995. So, earlier it was called as GATT, but then it was the name was replaced by WTO in December 12, 1995. The WTO was established on January 1, 1995. The WTO is the embodiment of the Uruguay round results and the successor to GATT. Now, 76 governments became members of WTO on its first day. They became the member of this WTO. Why? Because through this WTO, through this organization, they were going to impose certain kind of taxes around the world on those countries who were the member of WTO. As of September 1999, there were 134 members of the WTO and 34 countries have an observer status. They account for more than 90% of the trade. That means almost 134 members are the countries around the world who are the members of WTO, who compose of almost 90% of the world trade. Now, what does World Trade Organization do? The World Trade Organization, it facilitates the implementation, administration and operation, all the three activities into the multilateral and plurilateral trade agreements. That means whatever trade agreements are there between different countries, whether it is multilateral or it is plurilateral, all these the rules related to the legislations related to these trades, implementation, administration and operation of these particular principles are being done by WTO. It is being observed, it is being implemented by WTO. They keep a full track record of this implementation, administration and operation of multilateral and plurilateral trade agreements. Secondly, the World Trade Organization shall provide the forum of negotiation among its members concerning its multilateral trade relations in matter dealt with under the agreement. That means it also provides a table, it also provides a medium for negotiation between the different countries on the prices and price fixations and the trade taxes that are being imposed on the various products and services. So, it also provides a medium to these particular countries who cannot directly contact each other for the negotiation. So, it acts as a mediator. Thirdly, the World Trade Organization shall administer the understanding on rules, procedures governing the settlement of disputes. The World Trade Organization further also takes into the disputes and conflicts between the different countries which are related to the trade and tariffs of different countries. So, it takes up those disputes, and it has also laid down proper rules and regulations, procedures under which the countries can undergo, so that the countries come to a proper conclusion related to these disputes or the conflicts. So, fourthly, WTO shall administer the trade review mechanism. So, ultimately the World Trade Organization, it reviews the whole trade, whatever is being done in a full financial year between different countries through its review mechanism, so that the disputes are reduced to its maximum and exports can be increased, along with decrease in the taxation system of the products and services. Fifthly, we can say World Trade Organization shall cooperate with IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, and IBRD, that is the World Bank and its affiliate agencies. That means it works in cooperation with International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and through these particular other associations, it is being able to locate, or it is being able to justify whatever trade is being done between the 134 countries who are the members of World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization also has a General Council which looks after the implementation and administration of following processes. So, its four other main functions are that it supervises on regular basis the operation of the revised agreement and ministerial declaration related to goods, services and trips. That means it also administers, it also revises the agreements and declarations, rules and procedures which are related to goods and services that keep on changing, that keep on varying with time, varying with the financial year. Secondly, it acts as a dispute settlement body. In cases of disputes related to quality of the goods, pricing of the goods or services and other such disputes, it also acts as a dispute settlement machinery. That means a country can approach to WTO Council, General Council for its settlement of dispute. Then thirdly, it serves as a trade review mechanism. It also serves as a trade review mechanism. It reviews the trade between the different countries, and whatever is improper or is not in proper place, it focuses that all these things are kept in a proper condition or in a proper function. Fourthly, if we say to establish good council, service council, trips council as subsidiary bodies. WTO cannot do it all alone in a through a general council. For that purpose, it can establish a goods council which will look after the goods or the tangible products. Secondly, it can set up a service council which takes care of the different services that are being exchanged between the two countries, trips council and as the subsidiary bodies. So, we can see that WTO is a more powerful body with enlarged functions. That means it has a more enlarged functions, and most of the countries around the world are its members than GATT, and is envisaged with to play a major role in world economic affairs. To become a member of WTO, a country must completely accept the rules of the Uruguay round. Now, the second association is the International Monetary Fund. As we can say, IMF is an international organization. It is comprising of 189 countries who are its members, and it works to foster global monetary cooperation. That means whichever country needs financial assistance, it works for global monetary cooperation with those countries which needs the financial assistance. It also secures financial stability between the different countries. It facilitates international trade promotes high employment and sustainable economic growth. That means ultimately what is done by IMF is that it provides monetary assistance to all the countries which require monetary assistance for the export and import of the product and services. Therefore, ultimately it gives a boost to the economy of those countries, and those countries can boom with the opportunity of employment to the people of that country. It now plays a central role in the management of balance of payments. So, when we talk about balance of payments, we can say it comprises of total number of exports and total number of imports. So, whatever exports and imports are done in a particular country, they are taken up in consideration in the balance of payments, and IMF plays role in the management of balance of payments and international financial crisis. So, whichever country is facing any kind of financial crisis, it also assists that country so that the countries who are the member of IMF may not suffer with financial instability and may go in for export or import of the products across the world. So, the IMF also works to improve economies of its member countries. So, it helps in financial assistance of the countries, ultimately gives the an economic boom, or it gives a financial an economic stability to all the countries who are its members. So, when we talk about the objectives of IMF to promote international monetary cooperation, that means whoever is the whichever country is the member of IMF, they are being given specific monetary cooperation or monetary assistance, so that these country may stabilize their business, may go in for more and more export and import with the other countries, and with this with the increase of export of a particular country, country can get a high employment opportunity, and therefore, the exchange rate of different countries may increase. So, overall IMF also focuses on the economic boom of different countries who are its members. Secondly, we can say that it facilitates the expansion and balanced growth of the international trade. That means, it focuses on the expansion of the international trade, it focuses, it helps the countries, it assists the countries for more and more exports and more imports from the different countries, so that balance of payments can be done. Thirdly, it establishes a multilateral system of payments. That means, difference or exchange of currencies can be done through IMF. So, suppose a product from India is being exported to US, that means you need to change your currency, you will be earning revenues in terms of dollar. Now, how you are going to bring that dollar in your own country? You need an exchange system. So, all this will be assisted by the International Monetary Fund. So, we can see what are the basic functions of International Monetary Fund. So, first of all, it fosters global growth and economic stability. That means, through its monetary assistance, it helps in global growth, it helps in global business growth of different countries who are its members, and it provides economic stability to all the countries who are its members. Secondly, it helps to achieve macroeconomic stability and reduces poverty. That means, through this global growth, it helps to give an opportunities of employment to the people of that country where it is giving this assistance. So, whenever more and more employment opportunities are there in a particular country, the people of that country will have more and more pocket size. So, if they will be having more pocket size, of course, the demand of particular products or services will increase. So, whenever and vice versa, suppose a country is there where the people do not have a pocket size, or where there are less number of vacancies they are generated. So, the more and more people will be without vacancies or without job. So, in that case, the people will not be willing to buy the product. So, it gives a macroeconomic stability to those countries and reduces poverty by giving them an opportunity of employment in that particular country. Thirdly, we can say International Monetary Fund provides alternate sources of financing. So, we can go in for financing through different sources, different financial institutions. Some kind of aids can also be taken up by other countries, but in other case we can say International Monetary Fund is also a alternate source from where we can get these credits for the business of our own country. Fourthly, it oversees the fixed exchange rate arrangement between the country. That means it also looks after, it also takes care of the fixed exchange rate of the currencies of the two different countries, so that none of the country is at a loss. So, whenever exchange rate is being done, or exchange rate is being fixed according to the fixed rate, or it is done according to the flexible rate, all this will be looked after by the International Monetary Fund. Then fifthly, it helps the national government to manage their exchange rates and allowing these government to prioritize economic growth. So, by managing the exchange rates, whether it is fixed or it is a flexible exchange rate, it allows the different governments to prioritize their economic growth. So, whatever rate will increase their growth of economy, they will allow this particular exchange rate to the particular country. It helps to provide short term capital to aid the balance of the payments. So, short term capital will be also provided by the International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund will also intended to help mend the pieces of international economy after the Great Depression and World War II. So, after Great Depression and World War II, many of the countries were in a condition which were requiring a kind of financial assistance. There IMF has done a great help. It has helped mending the pieces of international economy of those particular countries who were almost devastated after Great Depression or World War II. So, the eighth one is to provide capital investment for economic growth and projects such as infrastructure. So, of course, when a country will boom, or when a country will be having a good economic growth, the infrastructure development of that country will also increase with that particular thing only. So, good infrastructure will ultimately lead to growth of industrialization of that country. Then eighth, we can say ninth, to examine the economic policies of the countries with International Monetary Fund loan agreements to determine if the shortage of capital was due to economic fluctuation or economic policy. Now, it also examines the basic economic policies and economic fluctuations of a particular country who is a member of IMF, and through this particular examination, it is able to assess that whether the kind of shortage that was there in the capital of that particular country was due to economic fluctuation or due to bad economic policies or unimplemented economic policies of that particular country. That means it will also help the countries to rectify if there are any kind of flaws there in the economic policy of a country. The International Monetary Fund also researched what type of government policy would ensure economic recovery. That means it will through its examination of the economic policy and economic fluctuation, it may also come to a conclusion, or it may also give certain suggestions to the government of different countries for the recovery of their economy. So, how they can do this, the certain kind of suggestions can be given to the government of different countries. Then a particular concern of IMF was to prevent financial crisis from spreading and threatening the entire global financial and currency system. So, it also ultimately through its observation on the economic policies of different countries, it is able to prevent a kind of financial crisis which may threaten global financial system or global currency system of the different countries. So, this monitoring is being done by International Monetary Fund. Lastly, we can say International Monetary Fund negotiates conditions on lending and loans under their policy of conditionality. Then comes the World Bank, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, that is IBRD. It is also known as World Bank. The Second World War damages the economies of the world. So, in 1945, when we call it as Great Depression, it was realized to concentrate on the reconstruction of that war damaged economies. Now, there was a need to reconstruct, as there was a need to increase the export and import after the World War also, after the Great Depression also, then there was also a need to reconstruct the various economies which were devastated after that particular incident. So, IBRD was established in December 1945 with IMF on the basis of recommendation of Bretton Woods Conference. That is the reason why IMF and World Bank are called Bretton Woods twin. So they were almost done, they were almost established at the same time. So IBRD started working in June 1946. As on April 2019, the World Bank has 189 members. So what are the basic objectives of World Bank? It provides long term capital to the member countries of the economic reconstruction and development. So it also like IMF, it also provides long term capital. That means it helps in financial assistance to the member countries so that they can reconstruct their devastated economy, they can develop this economy in a better way. So the development will ultimately lead to prosperity of that particular country. It also induces long term capital investment for assuring balance of payment equilibrium. That means it assures the balance of payment equilibrium. That means total number of exports will be equal to the total number of imports. Now we have already studied what will happen if total number of export exceeds. So if the total number of export exceeds, more and more revenue will be generated within the country, and the country will be in a condition of surplus. Similarly, if more and more imports are being done, more and more revenue, more and more currency will move out of the country. It will create a deficit within the country. So all this observing, all this monitoring will be done by the World Bank to promote capital investment in the member countries in the following ways. Now how it is able to promote the investment in the different member countries? It will provide guarantee on private loans and capital investment. That means it will take a certain kind of guarantee when the people are coming forward to take up the investment or the private loans. Secondly, it ensures the implementation of development project so as to bring about a smooth transference from a wartime to the peace economy. That means it will gradually help the different nations, different countries to move from a war condition, war situation to the peace economy, where it will be reconstructing the economic condition of that particular country and developing the business, developing and gradually increasing the industrialization in that particular country. Next association is the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, that is UNCTAD. In July 1962, a conference of developing countries was held at Cairo, which resolved to convene a world conference for its purpose. Economic and Social Council of UNO called World Trade and Development Conference, which was held between March 31 to 1964 and June 16, 1964. A worldwide international trade policy was determined in this conference. Various issues related to extension of international trade of various developing countries were also discussed in this conference. This conference was known as UNCTAD. Now, what are the basic functions of UNCTAD? It promotes international trade between developed and developing countries with different social economic systems, and thus to accelerate economic development. It formulates the principles and policies on international trade and related problems of economic development to make proposals for putting the said principles and policies into effect. That means whatever principles and policies are being made, it is very important to properly implement them and evaluate them in a proper manner. Now, the fourth one is to be available as a center for harmonious trade and related documents in the development policies of the government. Next one is the regional economic integration. Now, what is regional economic integration? It refers to an arrangement whereby two or more countries, they combine together into a large economic zone through a removal of discontinuities and discrimination existing along the national frontiers, while following a common tariff and trade policies against the countries outside the group. That means whichever countries are a member of regional economic integration, they they prepare a trade policy, tariff and trade policies against the countries which are not a member of this particular integration. Now, what are the benefits of this economic integration? The economic integration provides an unrestricted access of the product produced by any member country. That means all the member countries can have an unrestricted access to the products of that particular country. Specialization based on comparative cost advantage by a specific geographic region can cause considerably large expansion in production. the member countries can bring about qualitative improvement in production. So, the countries who are the member of this particular integration, they can bring about improvement in the production of their processes. Then it increases the employment opportunities and the purchasing power, that means the pocket size of the consumers will increase, and ultimately it will improve the living standards of the people. So, what does economic integration do? It helps to increase the employment opportunities of that particular country. That means this economic integration, as the word suggests, the countries which have their devastated economies, who are the members of economic integration, they will be assisted by this regional economic integration in the terms of finance, as well as they will also be assisted so that they can develop their industrialization process in the country. So, by doing so, they will increase the employment opportunity for the people of the member countries of the economic integration. Then by doing so, by increasing the opportunities of employment for the people, we will be ultimately the economic integration will be ultimately able to increase the purchasing power of the people of that particular country. That means the pocket size of the people will be increasing. So, increase in pocket size will ultimately what will it do? It will increase the demand among the people, among the consumer to buy more and more product and services. So, when they will do so, they will give a boom to their economy also, the economic growth will also occur, and plus with that they will also be able to improve the living standards of the people of that country. So, the next one is it allows the unrestricted flow within the region. There can be maximization of the employment and income. So, it also helps in unrestricted flow of labor. That means whatever restrictions are being imposed on the flow of labor, flow of manpower from one country to another, it allows unrestricted flow of those people from one country to another. So, it will give maximization to the employment opportunity to these people. The people will be able to go to different countries, which will thereby increase their income. Plus, the countries will also be having more and more specialized people from across the member countries who will come to their country for specialization of the processes of manufacturing that are being carried out within the same country. So, it also helps in unrestricted flow of labor. Then, the economic integration greatly increases the bargaining power of the member countries, which bring about a significant improvement in their terms of trade. That means whichever country is the member of economic integration, it gives them a power of bargaining amongst the different countries, because it is acting as a mediator, or it gives a platform of negotiation to these particular countries who are the member of economic integration. So, they come together, they make different kind of negotiations which are related to trade and tariffs, and thereby they come to a conclusion, they come to an agreement related to rules and regulations between the different countries. So, when there is more and more bargaining power amongst the member of the countries, they will be able to improve their terms of trade. That means the trade terms which they have already agreed upon by under the economic integration, they will not go against it, and if they go against those particular rules and regulations, it can be legally binding on those countries. So, ultimately economic integration it gives a strength to the legal binding of the all the member countries who come to an agreement related to trade and tariffs of the product and services that are being exported or imported within the country. Then when we talk about the maintenance of economic efficiency, the economic integration also helps in economic efficiency of a particular country. Now, if it gives boost to the economy of some of the countries who are the members of economic integration, it gives a boom, or it gives a strength to all the other countries as a group, as a whole, so that all the other countries are also in a growth position as compared to the other countries who are not in a growth position. So, its main objective is to bring the developing countries into a developed stage by giving them a strength, or by giving them a financial assistance, or by giving more and more growth to industrialization process in that particular country. So, as a group of countries, they all are coming at a growth, and economic efficiency is being obtained, or it is being managed by economic integration. Lastly, we can say that economic integration leads to dismantling of the barriers upon the movement of the labor and other factors among the member countries. So, it also removes certain kind of barriers which are there amongst the different factors related to the labor movement. So, ultimately what all we can say, these integrations or these associations helps the different member countries to increase export or import of the countries. Thank you.